say, it comes from one of my teachers, is will you dance with children in education? Will you dance every day? Try and dance every day with them. Because if we dance, imagine what it'd be like if children danced in the playground with their teachers and their parents when they came in. Just imagine what that would be like. Oh, what a difference. I know that the heart of biocentric education, the philosophy of non-violence, which is what Rolando was passionate about, that we can bring the heart into our relationships, that we can bring the heart into business, that we can bring the heart into education, that we can evolve our humanity, that we can evolve ourselves to a place where we are more integrated, where we're not just talking from our heads, where we're not violent with our language, where we can meet people and we can come from our hearts, and we can stop so much seeing the behaviour, even though that's really hard and we need to deal with that in education, for instance, but we start having relationship. And yeah, I think there's a lot of work to do if people are interested, and I don't want to work too hard, but I just do want to do the underpinning to make it more professionally accessible in terms of applying it, as well as us having fun at festivals and doing it personally. You know, I just think there's a lot of potential for taking it further. So that's been my monography, really, to piece that together, to underpin the science, which is vast. And I've just done as much as I can, you know, and underpin it in relation to other theories. So when I'm in education now, I'm talking about child development, or even when I'm talking about leadership, when I talk about human development, I talk about, you know, we were created from chaos, even in the womb when it comes together, when we come together, and we are affected by all the experiences, emotionally, that we receive, and chemically, you know, by those ecological factors that infiltrate even in the womb. And then we come into life and we're birthed into the people that care for us, and we attach. And there we are, absolutely dependent on those people that love us, to nourish us well. And we evolve in a structural way, a biochemical way, a physiological way, and there are certain things that happen to us under the age of 3 that actually are really hard to change, which is why a lot of us struggle. You know, the good news is we know that we can change, and with Biodanza we can change at a molecular level. I'm not so much sure if it's a structural level in terms of growing new parts of the brain. I don't know enough of that, but I do know it can go a long way to change. And he was so ahead of his time, Rolando. I feel like, you know, we owe him. He did so much, and he was so well studied. And there's, like I said, it's such a vast subject. Maybe many of you know even more about these kind of things than I do. You know, but this model, which is the same here as that was on the wall, which is the model of our whole lives, which is the model of how we develop and all our potential. And it's also the model of the whole cycle, almost, of the vivencia. It's the whole cycle of life. It contains so much in it. So if you haven't sort of had a good look at it, I kind of invite you to have even more of us. It's amazing. I wanted to understand it all. I'm laughing in over again because I posted one to a couple of you guys. I was posting questions like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Because these words are really hard, you know. Sometimes it took me I mean, you know, when you look at it, you probably think, but it did. Sometimes it took me like 3 weeks to write a paragraph because I didn't understand certain things. And I wanted to really understand it and try and write it in plain English, as plain English as I could. So that has definitely been my journey. Now this model here, what I find really interesting is that, this is just actually, I should go back to that. That's my friend's picture. I'll go back to that. What I find really interesting is this model here. This was actually published just a short while ago, a few weeks ago, from Harvard University. I find it so fascinating. And the heading is, Early Experiences Get Into Your Body. This is the latest research. Okay, this is the latest research that everybody's talking about in government, in early years education, in education. Oh my God, early experiences get into the body. We need to be focusing on this. Now what they discovered, so to me this is Rolando's model, which is really fascinating, is that, you know, is the eco-factors, the chemical, environmental, nutrition, everything like that, interacts with, along with our, we are born, you know, we have this instinctive potential, we're born with a certain makeup, and our genealogy is influenced, whether they get switched on or switched off our genes, is according to the experiences that we have. So even if you are prone to something, something may not be switched on or off. And they know a lot now about epigenetics. So the fact is, we know that the environment is so important. We know what we do, how we experience things, and also what we know is it accumulates over time. And, you know, so it says, you know, biological embedding during sensitive periods, and those sensitive periods are very much during the early years also, and during adolescence and things like that. And this accumulates, and it actually causes, what they're saying is, this is so important because it affects lifelong outcomes. We know that what we feed in actually can affect our body at a molecular structure. What did he say? That's what he said. The thing is, we have a system also that can work with that molecular structure. And we can go straight in through the limbic system, we can talk to the emotions, we can move with the physiology, we can express ourselves, and we can cause a molecular change. And that can even be passed on to other generations.
And Harvard University can't?
No, no. Well, that's kind of the theory, isn't it? We have a system. So we have application. Yeah. So I just have this picture, this is in my monography because this is Shanti's picture, I really like it. And it was just to really show the 5 lines. So, in the 5 lines of potential that we work with. So my monography is very much about unpacking the model, my understanding of the model, the importance of the early years of development, and that's important to all of us because we've all been early years, we were all born, we all went through the early years and beyond that, and the experiences that we've had, and so how development evolves. I just thought you might like to see this because this is really interesting for any of you who've got children. Do you know these connections? You know, look at this time of development under 2. It is the vastest time of development in our lives. The other thing I really like is what do we do in Biodanza? We are able to regress people right back to that time. Back to the ocean of possibility. Back to a time pre-symbolic thinking, where we are alive in our senses through the vivencia. There's not many systems that can do that. Take you to pre-symbolic time, where we can be reparented, where we can be held, where we can have some of those experiences. We can have a safe base if that was a bit, something happened to cause disruption to that.